Welcome to Perspectives in Mobile, the news podcast from the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. Join us discussing the world of telecommunications, technology, and mobile innovations. From Florence, Ricardo Amati.
We are at the moment where A2P SMS is no longer the unquestioned default. RCS is pushing hard for mainstream legitimacy, and the entire business messaging stack, from fraud mitigation to interoperability to monetization, is being rewritten in real time. If there was ever a moment to ask what's truly working, what's hype, and what comes next, it's now. Welcome back to the MEF Perspective podcast. I'm Ricardo Amati. We are joined by one of the sharpest minds in the space, David Fernandez-Vinuales, business messaging strategist, former Meta and Google leader, and a recognized expert in conversational AI and next-gen messaging ecosystems. Thank you for joining, David.
You're welcome. Happy to be here with you.
Few people have had a better vantage point on how messaging AI and enterprise engagement are converging globally. In this episode, we'll explore the real state of RCS, the pressures on operators and aggregators, the business case for enterprise, the rise of conversational AI, new monetization models, embedded commerce, MMAP or MAP if you prefer, and what the next 5 years of consumer brand interaction could look like. Let's get into it. About industry being at an inflection point, David, we are witnessing a double point. A2P SMS is no longer the default. What's the single biggest catalyst driving the shift toward richer channels?
Probably the best and the biggest catalyst has been Apple adopting RCS as a standard in their messaging solution. Obviously, Google has been pushing, and the carrier community has been pushing hard for RCS as a standard. But after Apple going to the play, we have seen more and more demand, particularly in markets like the US. We probably would say that other markets like India, Brazil, and Mexico were getting some traction. But the way that Apple is supporting the standard, it has made shift gears with many players in the ecosystem that they were like agnostic. Now they are firm believers that RCS is going to be the main stream, right? So that it comes when it comes to the devices and the standard. The second element is obviously the safety, the verification elements of the channel. That probably is helping a lot for the consumers to trust more on the channel, as well as for the enterprises to use it more widely.
Mm-hmm. From your vantage point at Meta, for example, and Google, is RCS finally achieving the scale and reliability the industry has been waiting for? Lots of promises, but how much is true?
Yeah, the channel is reliable. The question is like if the channel is available or not in the market, right? So if you can say, I want to launch an RCS service in the middle of Africa or in the Eastern Europe, probably right now, as a business, you're not going to be able to do it. But if you want to do it in the US or Mexico or Spain, for example, you already have the capability. So it's more about the reach and the number of devices that support it than if the channel is reliable or not, because it is, right? So, and to the option that if you don't have by any chance an RCS device, which in most of the cases is getting less and less devices, you always have the ability to do fallback into SMS. So you can run a campaign on RCS, their messages will be delivered on RCS devices, and if you are not an RCS device capable, then you will get an SMS, right? So to the extent the business is safe when they run campaigns using RCS.
Are there regions or verticals that surprised you the most in terms of enterprise uptake?
Well, I mean, for me, the biggest surprise, and this is my personal experience, maybe if you ask two other colleagues at Google and the ecosystem may tell you something different. I mean, it's like the biggest surprise for me was financial services. The beauty of the financial services is that they can, and they have seen a lot of potential use case implementations, starting from collections to promotional things like upselling a credit card, for example, to their customers. And one of the main reasons, and particularly my surprise, was in emerging markets where financial services could use other channels like WhatsApp. they decide to use RCS because they feel safer and more secure and more regulated, because RCS is a product, technically speaking, built by Google and delivered by Google, but it is operationalized and commercialized by the carriers. So a financial institution, when it comes to a market in Mexico and they need to deal with big companies like Telcel or AT&T and Telefonica that are highly regulated, they feel safer than using other channels like WhatsApp. Even maybe WhatsApp is more broader in penetration and have more use cases. But the reality is like there is a mindset, a perspective that I was not expecting at the beginning, which I think that is a good to know. But obviously, when it comes to other verticals, traditional retail is about e-commerce are very important ones. Like it is obvious, right? Because all of them they are doing SMS. And then when it comes to notifications, logistic companies, airlines, sometimes there could be other ones. I mean, I have a big hope on airlines using RCS.
But of course, financial services are paramount in terms of trust. They demonstrated that there is trust.
Yeah, and this is a trusted channel, right? Or at least is what we're supposed to expect of it.
Yeah. Operators, aggregators are asked to deliver a rich experience on top of decades-old infrastructure, right? What's the biggest unseen interoperability bottleneck holding RCS back, if there is one?
There is no interoperability because this is an OTT-like solution. So basically, it's operated by Google at a scale globally. So the interoperability is being provided by Google at low levels. I mean, the very old standards of RCS, like I don't know, you remember in 2011, 12, there was a product called Join.
Absolutely. It's not the first time.
Yeah, I was involved in that project too, by the way, just to let you know, when I was working in Huawei and competing with Ericsson, just to let you know. So that is when RCS have a big interoperability issue because they try to leverage the IN networks, intelligent networks of the carriers, and not of those networks were interoperable. No, I think that the GSMA did a good job to ask Google to chime in and to come in and to resolve that particular problem, because data is more like a scalable and global reach, more like carrier by carrier specific, right? And that's the beauty of RCS. You don't need to be interoperable. It's already interoperable.
It's always learning from failures, at the end of the day, isn't it?
Of course, we do, all of us.
Absolutely. Um, fraud. Fraud is escalating. Does richer messaging reduce fraud or simply change the attack surface? Okay, it's encrypted end to end, we know. But, and two questions in one. Sorry, I shouldn't do that as a journalist. But the second one
Yeah.
is, what do you think about backdoors, that so many governments are talking about? And
Well, I mean, it's like, well, two things. No, one is like as a business that you need to run into an approval process to get your agent run up and running, and in every carrier, the process is very compliant, right? So I think that from that lens, I mean, I haven't seen any yet. Maybe in the future, somebody can take over a brand or take over a CPaaS provider and maybe just to impersonate the access to our brand into the channel. But so far, I mean, it's like as far as you're branded and verified, it's going to be very difficult for a brand to be impersonated because, you have the brand logo, you have the term of services, you have the verified by the carrier. So you're not going to get that from a long phone number or maybe eventually short phone number, although short phone numbers are much more highly regulated. So I don't think an issue. From a P2P, I mean, like consumer to consumer, maybe somebody will try to impersonate some brands, but if the consumers are highly educated and aware that to receive a message from a brand they're not going to get it from a phone number, they're going to get from a verified logo and all the details that a RCS channel for businesses brings to the table, everybody should be safe. So it's more about a question of education and understanding the user, how the channel works, than somebody tried to abuse the channel in that front. Although, I mean, Google is putting, and the carriers are putting a lot of measures and countermeasures in order just to avoid this type of P2P fraud using network intelligence so far, right? So that's probably my answer to your question. Backdoors, well, this is an end-to-end encrypted channel. So I believe it's going to be much more harder for the government just to get access to it. It's not like WhatsApp. So there's still maybe some points where there's going to be a decryption, But I mean, the way that somebody can get access to the channel is much more harder than it used to be in the traditional SMS world, for example.
Right. And if you were launching a mobile messaging venture today, would you double down on aggregation, fraud mitigation, interoperability tools? What would you figure out to try and be successful?
No, it would be a messaging company. I would focus on start trying to identify the right verticals and the right use cases and start building on that. I mean, it's like, and particularly for me, and I'm representing as well Messaging Advisory, which is a consulting company that I'm working on right now. We're working with a lot of brands. I think that the beauty is like to educate the brands, and as a brand, figuring out exactly what is the right omnichannel strategy. Because I mean, RCS is the promise, and it's a promise for advanced use cases. Obviously, you have RCS Basic and RCS Single, but I mean, it's like what we're seeing talking to brands is like not all of them are eager to migrate all the entire traffic into RCS. So they want to migrate what really matters. I mean, obviously there is a price sensitivity there, and there is an ROI calculation and, elements that you need to figure out too. So how as a brand and how as a provider, you can help them just to figure out what is going to be that omnichannel strategy, like which use cases are going to go to SMS, what are the moments on the customer journey are much more precisely good enough to use RCS, and how you're going to balance those things together, right? Because we've seen, for example, in the US, an uptake in MMS, and sometimes talking to the brands is difficult to take them out of their mind, the MMS. So convince them to migrate MMS to RCS sometimes can be challenging. So it's trying just to convince them in the right way, in the right moment, right? So, and for that moment, I say that one element is education. The other element is like understanding the strategy and the use cases and the points in the customer journey. And the third element is measuring the impact of the campaign. So based on all those three things, you're gonna able to identify if what really matters is to continue doing SMS or doing RCS.
Right. What about higher cost and complexity in RCS? Um, what is the main metric that the top ones that proves is worth RCS is worth the
Yeah, I
transition?
mean, I would say it's higher cost in some markets, not higher cost in all the markets. I've seen markets that are very competitive with RCS pricing. So yeah, just to be, for example, Mexico, Telcel Mexico is very competitive on RCS pricing. Just to give you an example,
Mhm.
I mean, it's like I guess India as well is competitive. US is expensive. So my biggest concern is like sometimes you need to create a market before you monetize it. And I mean, sometimes like what we're seeing here is like the industry is trying to monetize it before the market is being created. So that holds the brands a little bit back, because sometimes it's difficult to prove ROI, return of investment, in some of the campaigns, and that's because the prices are higher in markets like, for example, the US. And this is a challenge for us because we're trying to convince the brands to use our RCS for the use cases that matters, but with the prices sometimes that they get, it's not competitive enough, and the ROI is not getting there. I mean, sometimes like MMS is deliver better business outcomes than an RCS campaign. But again, it depends. I mean, it's like you want to go conversational, you're never going to be able to do it on MMS. You have to do it on RCS. But right now, US has not a conversational pricing, so it's difficult for a brand even to make a bet on conversational if they don't have it. The second aspect of complexity is on the use case itself when it comes to conversational, because conversational requires backend integrations, and obviously there is complexity on the process to integrate with your CRMs, with your product catalog database, with your appointment system. So I mean, there is some work that needs to be done. The good news is once that work is done and the campaigns are up and running, I mean, there is a lot of value to be exploited from the channel. That's what we're seeing too, at least in other markets than the US.
How critical, David, is AI in making RCS and next gen messaging scalable for brands? What's the impact that it's having?
So I haven't seen that many AI cases yet, but I'm bullish on it. I think that AI can help in three different fronts. Obviously, one, as a tool for the brands to identify what are the use cases, what are the flows that they have to implement, what is the creative that they have to use to make it more impactful. Okay, that's number one. Number two, as a tool to identify, to start having a conversation with an end user, right? So that's how we understand AI, right? You type something and somebody replies to you. It's not a human anymore, can be an AI.
It's about conversation at the end of the day.
It's a conversation, right? So yeah, that's the second element. But for me, the third element, which I think is critical, and I'm having discussions with the Apple guys, for example, about that, because I think that they are, along WhatsApp, they are more advanced in conversational experiences. I mean, Apple Messages for Business. Um, the truth is, like, there is a moment of that the AI has to be smart enough to understand the surface that the user is using. Like, okay, what are the capabilities that the channel has? Like, it has carousels, it has videos, it has buttons or suggested actions of cheats, like RCS has. So the AI agent can understand how a particular user is interacting with the channel and trying to present to you the information in the way that you interact with the better. So it's not about the conversation itself. It's about, hey, Ricardo, you are a guy that likes to hit buttons. So I'm going to present you more buttons. I mean, and David, you are more conversational. So I'm going to text you more. So it's basically, you have to be contextual oriented in the user experience. And that's what I was working in my startup. Some people really love it. And that's a big area of exploration that not many people have been explored yet. And the last but not least is like the human component, right? So if the conversation derails, how you gonna put a human in the loop in order just to ensure that the user is happy and the AI agent doesn't screw on
So
on
an artificial intelligence could be useful to, I mean, intelligent intent routing. That's
yeah.
what I wrote down here.
There are two intelligent interrouting, right? One is like understanding the user intent and behaviors. That definitely, I mean, this is a must from an AI perspective. The other one is like intelligent routing from the lens of the decision of what is the right channel. And I mean, it's like, where is the user more interactive with you? Where are you maximizing the business outcomes with that particular user in that particular channel? So the agent decides which channel you're gonna be using. So that's the first component of the AI strategy that I would suggest to any brand
And what do you
work on,
think,
right?
what do you think, David? I mean, philosophically, is that better? I mean, a channel could make you do things, some kind of conversation. If AI um, choose a channel for you, is you more in charge, or vice versa? I don't know if I formulated
Yeah,
the
well,
question in the right way, but very upset.
yeah, no, I would like to believe that at the end, it's the user who has to be in control, right? So at least you have to make the user feel they are in control, because at the end of the day, as a brand, you want to give sure that the users are happy and they can get what they want from you. So if they do it on RCS, great, but maybe by sending them a simple SMS, the work is done, the job to be done, let's say it. So you could do an SMS either, right? So that's what I believe is going to be the right thing to do. And I think that we own to the brands, not convincing them to do, hey, you have to migrate everything to RCS. You have to do it in the way that is right for you and is right for your customers. And if it is everything, fantastic. I mean, it's like, I'm not disagree to don't not do anything on RCS, but at the end of the day, sometimes we have found that SMS can be very effective to do a basic single message communication, and then over the time you can start creating more richness on other channels, right? So the only question for SMS is like, I believe that in my opinion still RCS is safer. So if you are a brand that prioritize safety and trust and security, probably RCS could do a better job for you as well than an SMS.
What's the sustainable revenue model for operators and aggregators talking about RCS and AI-driven conversations?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it's like what I've seen. I mean, I started working in the telecom space like 25 plus years ago, let's name it. Okay, it's been a long time. And I started doing SMS. So at that time, I was in Telefonica. Telefonica was selling directly SMS directly to enterprise customers. What I've seen over time that, the figure of a carrier selling directly has given place to the aggregators or to the CPaaS providers. So in most of the cases, the carriers have become more like a wholesaler. Um, and they've lost the possibility to upside and upsell some ways of messaging, no, because that market has been already captured by the aggregators, not to some extent. But I still see some opportunities, right? So one of them is like there is a good combination of messaging and particularly rich messaging like RCS with network capabilities. So telcos right now are working on network APIs as well. So imagine a rich OTP solution where you can give to a bank the confirmation that the user that is trying to interact with you on an RCS channel as well is the person that they say it is. So it's legit. So then they send you an OTP, a rich OTP solution. But the rich OTP is because you are combining the carrier network APIs that are confirming that I am David and I'm saying who I am when I'm trying to ask for the OTP. So you're not sending OTP to everybody. You're sending OTP to the guys who are granted. So that's an upsell on the carrier side. And I think that there is a lot of potential there because the carriers have a lot of assets in the network that they can monetize and they can combine with the messaging solutions. So the second element is like messaging in general has been privileged to big enterprises, okay, because of the prices. So, but 98% of businesses are small and medium businesses. So in the same way that Meta has been providing SaaS solutions for small and medium businesses, I think that the carriers have a big opportunity to use a CPaaS platform, white label as their business, as their product, and then resell into the entire small and medium business base with templatized journeys. And those journeys can be basically improved and amplified by AI. So there is a lot of potential there. And nobody's been thinking about that. I mean, there are very few carriers that they sell directly to brands. And those are the ones that are more advanced on the thinking process. But I believe that all carriers, they have that opportunity.
Messaging as platform, MAP, I think you experts call it. It is finally becoming real, or is it still like a slide deck promise looking for a business model?
No, I think that, well, I mean, it's like the way that Map or messaging as a platform was conceived initially was more like a vendor comply with the RCS standards, and a vendor a carrier could use Google, but they could use another map provider. The reality is those times are already gone because right now the network is Google, all of it, with the exception, I guess, in Korea. And the reality is the map is a very interesting concept right now, which is basically like, okay, Google provides you the capabilities, but then you as a carrier, you have a specific needs like I need to do a better billing and conciliation with my aggregators. I need to ensure that if there is some compliant things that I need to take care of, probably have control of it. If there is a government audits or or policy intervention and things like that, I mean, I have to have at least a way that I can give them access to see what's going on, right? So, and that is not happening today with the Google platform. So I believe that the idea of a map where carriers, they can have the ability to at least have partial control of that experience from their own world and from their own lens. I mean, for example, Telcel has one, and they were telling us, for us, it's very important to do a daily reporting to management that we cannot get from Google. So, but we can get from our platform, right? So that type of things makes a lot of sense to me. And we've seen some carriers already start implementing maps like, AT&T, for example. It looks like there are some other US carriers that are considering this, Telcel, Orange in Spain, and, in India as well, they're using .go's platform. So, yeah, it seems like it's going to be a balance and a trade-off. You are a small carrier, you don't have those needs, probably you don't need it. You are a very heavily regulated, very heavily operational carrier, you may want to have that solution in place.
Are we seeing the early emergence of a super app behavior with RCS? I mean, they could enable payments, cards, commerce, inside the chat window. If so, who controls the rails?
Ooh, that's a very complex
I mean,
question.
it's a question that it came. What I had to write articles about the TikTok deal, and there are this bunch of billionaires instead of China. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good for national security probably, but still,
Well,
it's
like I was thinking the first thing that came out to my mind was WeChat, right? So WeChat is a super app. So the second one that is behind that, and I mean, that's the objective of Meta. And you saw Meta trying just to stop people and BSPs, basically the messaging service providers that we understand aggregators, to start doing AI, their own AI, and they're blocking that. It's basically because they're trying just to get control and create that super app element of it and integrating with payments. They have a lot of struggles. So what I'm seeing in my experience as well, RCS has a lot of potential, but still there are a lot of capabilities and functionalities that are not there yet. For example, you cannot do native payments on Google Pay or Apple Pay in the channel. You can do that in WhatsApp, you can do that in Apple Messages for Business, but not on RCS.
RCS.
And even it's going to take some time to do that. Then there is the P2A element of it, which is basically enabling user-initiated conversations. Google is working to enable their Google services like search and maps and all the places you can enable start the user-initiated. But at the end of the day, this is a balance and a trade-off between functionality and as well Google and the carrier relationship, because I guess that the carriers will want to monetize as well the P2A, and probably this is going to prevent the market to grow and explode. I mean, it's like, so again, it's like this is the trade-off between monetizing the market and creating the market. So we are in the middle of what is first, is creating the market or is monetizing it. I believe in some markets they're trying to monetize first, and that is going to prevent the possibility to get into a super app model. So the way I frame RCS today is like a mini app. So not thinking on a super app, but it's still the people understand this really well, because you can still do a lot of things in the channel. And hopefully in the future, we will add new functionalities, and probably the agreements with Google and the carriers will be fine-tuned, and prices will be better, and P2A will be fully enabled. And then, all those capabilities that will set RCS as a super app will be in place right now. And I don't think is that true.
If you could give MEF members one urgent directive to stay relevant in the next 24 months of messaging transformation, what would it be?
Well, I think that probably if they're not doing it right now, it's like to embrace RCS and to start testing, to be aggressive. I've
Mm.
seen some of them, they are very shy. Some of them are very aggressive right now, which is great. Some of them are very shy and like, we're testing and, we don't know about the brands. I think that, well, there's a job to be done, which is convincing the brands that they have to test this, because the future is here, right? So, and then the second one is like to try to balance, their actual messaging strategy with the future messaging strategy, and to try to learn and to figure out exactly how that works. That's what we're doing right now with brands. We're helping aggregators, we're helping brands to do this. And it's a very important task, because that's the first one where the brands want internally understand the value of the channel, not only from the people that know internally, but as well across the organization. And sometimes, yes, you can have a sponsor that knows very well about RCS, but you realize that all the executives around him or her, they have no idea. So the first one is like, there's a huge educational element of it. And believe me, when an executive see the RCS experience on their mobile devices, it's a no-brainer. It's like, oh wow, I want more of this, right? So and the question is, you are not shy, you're not gonna get into there. So you have to be there. And the second one is like to prove that the channel works, right? So then work a lot on the ROI, combined with the brand analytics systems, with the conversational elements, with the attribution systems, and proof point what are the things that are good for the channel, and continue. And once you do that, continue testing and testing and testing. I always say this, you mentioned TikTok. I work for Meta. I mean, when I was trying to convince a brand to use, right now it's a no-brainer for brands to do Facebook and Instagram, right? Or TikTok, or doing Google search, right? So here is the same. It's like we were convincing the brands to do something, start testing, iterate, and then you want to find out exactly what really works for you or your customers. That's the moment in time that you want to make the channel mainstream. But you are waiting for ROI, you're waiting to, whoever else is going to be doing it, nothing is going to happen, right? So basically my advice is start.
So, directive to stay relevant is don't be shy and study.
Correct.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, don't be shy, start and test and iterate.
Blind spots of the industry not addressed yet.
Oof.
What would you identify? I mean,
As
talking about things that could be existential in the next future.
I don't know. I think that AI and conversational are going to be areas that we definitely have to be more aware of it. So we have to do a good job, because AI is here, but yet it's not perfect. So I think that the industry is going pretty slow, but steady, which is good. And while most of the traffic is going to be on RCS Basic and eventually RCS Single, I mean, the big future is going to be on conversational, right? So I think that it's going to be an important area that we should not underestimate, because there's going to be a lot of work, as we discussed before, and there are going to be a lot of things that we have to learn. So that's one of the areas. The second is the operational process. I think that my biggest concern for the industry is like right now we have 100, 200 enterprises. Approving agents for 100, 200 enterprises is fine. What happens when you have to approve thousands of small and medium businesses if you want to go that mainstream, right? So how are you going to operationalize that one? I mean, it's been always my concern. The third element is like how RC is going to grow at a scale in other markets than the big markets like the US. What is going to happen with the small markets? And obviously, how the relationships between Google and the carriers are going to be handled and managed is going to be another important element, because some carriers, they have approached me personally to see if they can talk to Google because they want to launch RCS, but Google is not ready or is not prioritizing that particular market. So there are opportunities that can be lost if we let it go for a long time, right? So those are my big three themes.
Last question, David. Fast forward 5 years. How will consumers interact with brands? Will any of this still resemble to what is up now, what we call now messaging today?
Well, I think that probably combination of two things that we've been talking about, right? One is like the super app concept. I will not name it super app, but probably will be like a medium app approach.
Right.
And then conversational.
Okay, now anyway. Yeah.
Conversational and conversational AI. The way I see this is like, now SMS is used for notifications, for OTP, for marketing and promotions. But I mean, nobody has been thinking of messaging like a digital transformation channel or messaging transformation channel, right? So the way I see this is like, okay, think on your customer journeys and what the channel can do for every single stage of your customer journey. So what they can do for you to discover your products and services, what it can do for you to close a deal and to make a purchase, what it can do for you when the customer has already bought your product and you want to onboard them and you want to engage and re-engage with them and you want to drive retention and loyalty, right? So there are many things that you can do along that journey where rich messaging can help you a lot in all those ways. That requires a lot of work in terms of backend integration, process thinking, conversational design thinking, and obviously AI is going to be a fundamental component of all of it.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Math Perspectives. A huge thank you to David Fernandez-Vinuales. Thank you, David, for joining us and for your insights.
Okay. Thank you, Ricardo. It was a good chat.
And so we cut through the noise and and David gave us a clear look at where messaging, RCS, and conversational AI are really heading. Conversation like this help the entire industry stay grounded and prepared. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe, share it with your teams, and stay tuned for more insights from the leaders impacting the future of mobile. I am Ricardo Amati. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you very soon. Good luck with your work.
Thanks for listening to Perspectives in Mobile. Join us next as we explore telecoms, technology, and mobile innovations. Stay tuned, stay connected, and let's unlock the mobile potential together.